Good afternoon, everyone. So as we close in on the home stretch of our election season, we thought we'd see if anyone was interested in another debate. And so today we're going to debate the great debate of whether to build or to buy. I'm Jon Porterfield. I am with Anser Advisory, part of Accenture. We are a program, project, and construction management firm. We have about 1,300 folks in North America. We provide owner representative services on capital projects, infrastructure projects. With Accenture, we are capable of helping out our clients from every stage of a project, from planning all the way through design and construction. And one of the things that we do is we help our clients assess their needs and identify the best software solution for their project management. And so today we are going to be talking about one of the key decision points in that process, which is, do you build your own or do you buy an off-the-shelf solution? This is often the great debate, and when it comes to technology, the build versus buy, there are definitely pros and cons to each. And is one of these options better than the other? And that's what we're going to debate today. So we have two panelists here who are each going to be debating the two sides of that topic: build or buy. First, we have AJ Waters. To your right, AJ Waters is a veteran in the construction space who has led many evaluation teams in the selection of off-the-shelf software. He will be representing the argument to buy software off the shelf. And then with him, we have Ralph Barsi, who is no stranger to technology himself. He spent more than 2 decades helping grow software as a service companies. And therefore, he will be representing the build side of the argument. So I'm blessed that you folks are a little distant, but since this is being videotaped, I do have a gash across one of my cheeks here, and I have to reveal how that happened. These two men, I got between them. So I don't have the ability to mute either of the microphones. So gentlemen, I'm going to hand it off to you, but please, let's be civil about this debate. And with that, AJ, the floor is yours.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. As John mentioned, my name's AJ Waters, Chief Evangelist at Kahua. And for the last decade or so, I have been in the buy side of the industry. I've been helping customers look at software, evaluate software, see how software off the shelf can solve their problems. But before that, I worked for Kiewit, which some of you may be familiar with. And in the late 2000s, early 2010s, they went through a software implementation and custom built a bunch of applications in order to make their business processes work. So I went through the build, and it was not pretty. And so that's kind of the background that I have. And before I go too far, is Kyle from the Ferries department still here? I heard Kyle this morning say, get to know your IT architecture staff. Like I got voluntold to be on that team at Kiewit, and yeah, it was hard. So those people do work hard on the back end to build your IT architecture. But the reason out of the box is a better option is out of the box is ready on day one. When you start your implementation, the best practices of the industry have been baked in. That's kind of what the point is of these software providers. They have worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of customers to build in best practices in an intuitive way that your users can use them right away. And the other great thing that they do is they offer training and support. You know, a software that you buy off the shelf has both a training team and a support team, probably has a library of videos, a YouTube channel, those sorts of things. If you're building it yourself, you're doing that yourself. You are the trainer. You are the support staff. So get used to those phone calls. And the other thing that it does is it's already developed to be scalable, and the maintenance and the innovation and the upgrades are a part of how they operate as a business. So all of those things together are things that you, if you are building it yourself, have to do. Every update is on you. Every maintenance cycle is on you. Trying to scale it up for bigger projects if it doesn't handle it because your business grew, that's on you. So all of these are reasons why buying off the shelf makes it a lot easier on your internal team.
All right, thank you, AJ. All right, Ralph, so what's wrong with that?
Well, what's wrong with it is everything. So thank you, John. I'm sorry about the gash. I think you've done a wonderful job mediating. We didn't mean to get too we didn't mean to thrash too much. You know what I mean? Everybody, it's great to be here. I'm Ralph Barsi. Really having a hard time listening to my colleague AJ over here. In fact, just last week, I spoke with a colleague who shared, and I quote, "We were sold a bill of goods back in the late 2000s that an off-the-shelf solution was the way to go. However, we quickly came to the realization that no matter how out of the box something may seem, it will never truly conform to our way of doing business." AJ mentioned thousands of customers do this, thousands of different businesses run into these problems and handle it, but we have our own unique way of doing things. Therefore, building it is the way to go. In fact, AJ, in many cases, this system of industry best practices didn't understand many of the common phrases that we all learn in Construction 101. So things like change orders, for example, or back charges and production factors were foreign to a solution built by technologists. So in order to find something that would help us keep our competitive edge, we found out really quickly that we had to build it ourselves. So let's face it, you're never going to have all the requirements outlined for a technology purchase the very first time. Building your own software makes it easy to make changes whenever you want. So for example, if you missed a step in a particular process, add it in. You decided you want to automate an additional workflow without a significant upcharge from a vendor, build it out. We spent just over 2 years, by the way, building out a solution, which is kind of the same amount of time it takes to implement a lot of software these days. And by the time the base system was live, we had 3 additional products in the queue and ready to develop right behind it. So you see, there are some very specific ways that we did things, and they had always been done that way.
Now, if I remember correctly, my friends at Forbes say it's always been done that way is the worst phrase in business.
Okay, I appreciate that. You did have your turn, so let me just finish real quick, okay? We're talking about an incredibly successful, incredibly profitable contractor. Obviously, doing things our way was a driving factor to our success. I mean, buying a software that was off the shelf and used by all of our competitors wasn't going to protect our edge. No, that was going to bring us backward in terms of processes. We had our standard operating procedures, and that's what we're going to build. Couple that with a host of resources, and you have a win-win for continued profitability and success.
All right, well, thank you, Ralph. I mean, obviously you've had some experience with this process, and so I think what we would like to hear is what is it that's wrong about what AJ is saying?
So look, I started that way because it's just straight up he's wrong. So if everybody can help me out here, a show of hands, who here's been part of a technology implementation? Very good. It's a majority of the room. So I don't think anybody in the room will argue with me that those implementations take forever. Am I right? I mean, when was the last time a technology company actually delivered on a promised timeline? One of the most significant issues we had when first attempting to utilize out-of-the-box software was a never-ending project. Construction gets a bad rap For example, there's an old meme of a dinghy called Original Contract, and it happens to be tied to a yacht called Change Order. But software companies make us look like novices in extending implementations. And when was the last time one size actually fit all? Out-of-the-box processes inherently assume everyone works exactly the same way. Those thousands of customers that AJ mentioned. I can't remember the last time 2 projects handled a change order the same way, let alone entire companies.
Maybe that's where that meme comes from.
Right, because it definitely doesn't come from asking a software vendor for a new feature, I could tell you that much. The second we run into something that isn't quite as intuitive as they say, or doesn't quite complete a process, we have to load our request into a feature queue and wait and wait and wait. And then hear that it's not really a priority for other customers. I might as well go stand in line at the DMV for crying out loud.
Oh, okay. All right. Wait. I think that's enough. All right. So thank you, Ralph. AJ, would you care to respond to Ralph's?
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned your plethora of resources and profitability to just go build whatever you want. Not everyone can look like Jeff Bezos. All right. Like, we don't always have that much money and time available. And if that one ERP implementation is the standard that you're going to go off of, because yes, ERP takes forever. That's not the same thing as project management software. You can't use that as your benchmark for a 2-year implementation. Listen, let me ask you a question. If you were to build something yourself, when was the last time you studied UI UX? Or how about what's a proper button location for an action button? Or what's the difference between enter and return?
Yeah, that's my point. What is the difference between enter and return?
You should know this. You're older than me. Enter was on a typewriter, or no, return was on the typewriter. Exactly. That's what, so it returned to the typewriter, the other side, right? Enter came along when it started to be utilized more as an action button and not just to make the next line. See, those are the kinds of things you have to consider when you're building stuff yourself. You have to consider all of these little nooks and crannies that you've never thought of about software. And those continued tweaks, they're never ending. Like, it goes on forever. When we built way back in 2012, I remember constant retraining. Every time a new button was added or a new feature, we had to go back and we had to update all our material. We had to go back and we had to train all the people. And of course, they're not going to listen to us the first time. So we get 100 support tickets because our button moved or our action is different. And these trade secrets that you have to build into the system, your people are your trade secret. Your business process tends to be pretty close to the industry standard. It's not quite as crazy as it needs to be. And there are a few configurable providers out there, but I mean, outside of changing the names of a few fields, you're not as special as you think you are.
AJ, as I was saying, there's nothing standard about how we do business. I mean, sure, it'd be great to be able to share resources across projects with processes and procedures that were repeatable, but we would need a solution that streamlined these processes to support an initiative like that. I mean, of course, standards like this could decrease time to ROI and increase efficiency, but would it be worth the trade-off?
Well, that's an excellent question. It would only be worth the trade-off if you could connect the missing links. Like, you'd have to be able to maybe build in a little bit of workflow that would connect the dots. So, because, I mean, the right steps aren't going to be for everyone, right?
Yeah, I mean, but to do that, you'd have to be constantly tweaking and updating your user training and guidelines. I mean, there would need to be certain core aspects of the system, for example, that didn't change, like a common user experience and an intuitive interface. The more you look to build or change, the more important it is to keep things familiar to the end user. I mean, there is no room for clunky screens that are hard to navigate or siloed systems that look nothing like the other.
Yeah, but
Sorry to interrupt, but Ralph, are you still talking about building?
But you also want it familiar to your user, right? You want your business flows in there so that it's quicker to learn. So it's easier for them to navigate around and get to the things that they need. So you've got to build in that process.
I thought you were talking about buying.
Yeah, look, as you can clearly see, the correct solution to the problem of digital transformation in construction is to buy a system that is off the shelf and build around industry best practices. It decreases time to ROI. It's easy to use and it can scale with your business.
No. The correct option is to build your own. It satisfies all your requirements. It's more nimble and it does things that your users want it to do.
You need to buy it, man. I'm telling
you. Build.
All right. I think I have to stop both of you, So you guys sound like you're flipping sides.
Isn't that what they do? Is that how a debate works?
Yeah.
You flip sides?
Yeah.
You
Wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Right.
No, we just go with
Since you guys can't hold your ground. And you can't,
Help us out, John. Help us out.
We have, let's cut to a little presentation here. All right. Okay. So, does that come up on its own or?
You might get there through the click. There we go.
There we go. All right. So, I mean, what we're talking about here is do we walk, crawl, or run? With the platform as a service or a low code application process, you're going to get the benefits of a commercial off the shelf. You're going to get easy configuration with minor enhancements to it. You're going to be able to you have complete flexibility to create new applications.
So essentially, why not do both? If you have the opportunity, do both. Get something that runs off the shelf that you can build in your own processes. And that's the idea of a platform as a service, which is a little bit different than a SaaS or a software as a service product. And so that was kind of the argument that we were having a little fun with up here, right? But the idea is there's more than one way to handle something like an RFI or a submittal. And maybe that out-of-the-box way is not the right way. Well, maybe a low-code, no-code application builder allows you to tweak that, not necessarily follow the scheduled path.
Yeah, Anser Advisory has found with some of our clients that this is the best solution for them because it allows a quick implementation to keep pace with a tight schedule on delivery, but it also builds in that flexibility to make adjustments on their own to workflow and to naming conventions on fields and what have you, so that it can better fit their own delivery processes. Let's see here. So, with a low-code platform as a service, you don't have to be held back by the development bottlenecks. You don't have to spend a year getting it configured for your application. AJ, I think you have some experience with this. Can you tell us a little bit about how this plays out?
Yeah, so essentially what happens when you're looking for, and we made this comment in the debate, the new feature request with a software provider, right? If you're not a priority customer, if your feature isn't something that most of the customers are going to get benefit out of, right? It gets deprioritized down the list. So if anybody here is an avid user of P6 and has ever submitted a feature request, you probably know what this feels like, because I think I have 10 from the early 2000s that still haven't been answered. And so that's the idea of the development bottleneck. You submit tickets for feature requests to providers, and then you kind of wait your turn. I think one of the big ones in Autodesk is a search in their UI so that you can find parts and pieces faster. And they never built it out, so a partner actually built out an add-in to make it work. That's the kind of idea of the low-code, no-code.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to AJ. So obviously we're partial to buying software that is on the market, taking advantage of this ecosystem he talks about. But for anybody who's considering making an investment like that, I would implore you to consider the agility and the scalability and the evolution that a platform or software as a service can provide your organization as it scales and grows and evolves over time. It's absolutely critical to think about that when you're in the evaluation process.
So, I mean, with platform as a service, your data can be more secure, right? I mean, Ralph, can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. So it can't be emphasized enough how paramount security is. And this is just a handful of some of the entities out there that you'll want to be keeping in mind and searching for when you're considering making an investment in a platform. I mean, just a couple bullet points to keep in mind in terms of the benefits that you get from partnering with a secure environment and a vendor that understands security is, for example, the whole procurement process becomes streamlined and efficient, especially when you see FedRAMP or StateRAMP environments. Processes are going to be streamlined at very high standards as well. Also, there's enhanced risk management. Implementing SOC 2, Type 2 measures helps identify and mitigate risk across your organization. I mean, there's regulatory compliance benefits. They help you meet legal requirements and reduce fines from legal issues. God forbid that happen. You also have a competitive advantage. There's user confidence that's driven across the organization, which also drives consumer and customer confidence. So there's a ton of benefits and advantages to going with a secure environment and making sure that that remains at the forefront of your initiatives.
And to go along with that, here's kind of the overall idea of why security is so important in the construction industry, not just because of things like what happened with the Seattle airport, but who here, about a little over a handful of years ago, who here lost data when Target got hacked?
Mm-hmm.
Basically all of us, right?
Yep.
Because their entire customer database was hacked. But what few people realize, if you go and you read about what actually happened, they got hacked through their HVAC subcontractor. So that subcontractor had an insecure system, and somebody hacked that system and found the login credentials for Target's system. So they got into Target through construction. Like, that's why it's such a big deal for our industry to be as excited about security as all other industries.
Well, I did not know that story about Target, so that's interesting. So AJ, what about future proofing? I mean,
this one's one of my favorite ones, future proofing technology, because like if you think about the speed at which things are innovating right now and the speed at which things are changing, and you look at technology that was architected 20 years ago, you start to understand, like, I get it. I loved Windows XP too. It was one of the best versions of Windows, but I couldn't imagine trying to run Windows XP today, right? And that's the timeline that we're talking about when we look at a lot of the SaaS providers that are on the market. They were architected in the early 2000s, right around Windows XP, Windows Vista, like that timeline. And so they run on back-end systems like those architectures would run on. Think that's pre-iOS, that's pre-Android, that's pre this low-code idea of what all of our mobile technologies utilize today. And that's where some of the newer low-code platform as a service providers give you the opportunity not just to buy something off the shelf that is what it is, but also to continue to build your own applications and to future-proof that investment, because now if something changes tomorrow, you have a way to add a new Lego block or to add a new application. It's just like the phone that's in your pocket, iOS or Android, whatever you're running. That is a platform as a service. Out of the box, it works. But on day 2, you decide that you're going to take a flight and go somewhere, and Apple or Google, they didn't develop the United app. They let United do that. Now you as a user who bought this new phone, well, I don't have that app on my phone. I got to go get it. They allow you to do that versus having to go buy a phone specifically for travel that specifically has travel applications, right? That's kind of the idea of future-proofing your tech.
A separate thing I would add to what AJ's talking about is, not everybody in the room is keeping their finger on the pulse of the proliferation of apps that we're seeing today, or the evolution of technology. So anybody who has an iPhone in their pocket right now knows that it seems like every month to 3 months, you have to click update to do the software update because there's constant change and evolution. We have Procore in the room. We have Aster in the room. Obviously, we represent Kahua. We are people who have our finger on the pulse of this proliferation of technology and the evolution. So you don't have to. You can consult people like us in the marketplace, and we would consult you right back and help you make sound decisions for your organization as you're managing the technology wave that isn't going to stop.
So just to summarize what we've been talking about up here, you're looking at cost savings, having the best of both worlds. You're looking at flexibility. You're looking at agility. This is something that you can implement fast and then retool it as the sophistication of your process or your program advances. You have security. You have longevity because of the future proofing. So I think that summarizes it. Anything you gentlemen want to add to that?
Nope. All I'll say is software providers, we're done ahead of schedule, and we'll give you back a couple minutes.
Yeah, I would say also if you're in the process of considering that investment and buying something on your own, I would recommend what AJ recommended. That is, consider doing both. Do the buying and the building if it's going to benefit your organization and your mission. You've all been generous with your time. Thanks to Ken and the InfraDay team. It's a real pleasure to be here with you. And thank you, Jon.
Yep. Yes, thank you all.
Thank you, Ken. And Kahua has a booth outside, so if there are any Q&A that you have, you can meet up with them out there. Thank you.